Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and I am recording this at the end of the day. I went to PAX for the very first day, PAX East 2023 here in Boston, and let me tell you, I'm having a good time here with my friends and fellow YouTubers. It's pretty cool. The one thing that really stuck out at me was when I went inside PAX, the front doors, they have this giant Link statue. You may have seen it before with the big Tears of the Kingdom backdrop. And it just looks amazing. It's so well animated, so well detailed. And it got me thinking, the marketing in Tears of the Kingdom is actually pretty good. I think they're building up to something here that's going to be special, despite what many may think. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we jump into that, let me mention that we are pushing to 25,000 subscribers. We're gaining some serious momentum here. It's starting to seem like we may actually do it. But of course, we gotta maintain that momentum, and if you enjoy my content, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because then we may actually, legitimately, make it. But going back to this idea of the marketing for Tears of the Kingdom, there's been a lot of debate about it being good, about it being bad, whether it's healthy for the series and the fans, or if it's not. And I do think a lot of people have been a little frustrated, because when you think about how Nintendo handles all their other games, we would have known more by this point so close to release. Even Breath of the Wild, the closest comparison to this game, we knew a lot more about Breath of the Wild half a year out, 9 months out before its release, and here we are, less than 2 months away, and we still know so little. Yet despite that, recently we reported that we are seeing some early signs in Japan that pre-orders are already going to exceed Breath of the Wild 8 weeks before release. That is very strong, good, healthy news. Of course, many may counter that by saying, well, of course, there's over 120 plus million people who have a Switch already. It's bound to have more pre-orders. When Breath of the Wild came out, it was a day one game alongside the Switch, so it made sense that not as many people would get it at first. And I think that is a fair, legitimate point to bring up. But something else that we should consider is that we have other big games that have sold 10 plus million that are follow-ups to franchises on the Nintendo Switch that came out earlier on in the generation that were also huge sellers, some of the top selling games on the platform. Splatoon comes to mind. Splatoon 2 sold 13 plus million, and Splatoon 3 came out just last September, and as of December, so not even a full half-year period, has already eclipsed 10 million. It's right behind Splatoon 2 sales, and it still has a long way to go. I'm sure by the time we get the next update, it's possible it may have already passed Splatoon 2. And we still haven't gotten the main big part of the DLC for Splatoon 3 yet, so that's going to give it another big push. And then with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the same applies. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, in an even shorter time span from when it came out in November to the end of December, it has eclipsed 20 plus million. And Sword and Shield, its predecessor, also out on Switch, was at 25. So we're already at 80% of total sales in a month and a half. And there's DLC coming for this. And of course we have the rumors about there being graphics enhancement patches coming for the next big Nintendo system, which will also continue to push these games. But the point I'm getting at here is that we're seeing that for other big Nintendo series that are having direct follow-ups to prior games on the Switch in a very short amount of time, they're showing strong signs of beating out their predecessors. So why can't we say the same for Tears of the Kingdom? Tears of the Kingdom continues to win pretty much every most anticipated game of 2023 award. Just this past weekend, we talked about how the series producer, Aonuma, had some comments to say, and he talked about how this game is going to excite fans and meet up to their expectations. I'm paraphrasing here, but this was when receiving most anticipated game. What that suggests is that there is a confidence that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be that kind of game that will meet expectations, and if the expectations are most anticipated game across the board by a significant margin, then that also should bode well for its potential sales. However, people will continue to remark that yes, what we're seeing here, those are all good signs, but mainly just from the core fan base. the larger casual market, because Nintendo's not hard marketing this game like they did with Breath of the Wild, it really just stands no chance of having sales that even compare to Breath of the Wild. But I'm not so sure. I think part of what made Breath of the Wild so successful was the word of mouth. Because of Breath of the Wild systems and the crazy things people kept on discovering and coming up with, this allowed the game to be discussed by so many people, and it really spread the word of mouth for this game and helped it to get the kind of sales it has gotten and maintain this evergreen status, so much so that it even surpassed Mario Odyssey, which at one point Mario Odyssey had passed it even though it came out afterwards. Point being that if Tears of the Kingdom does something like that as well, on top of the large Switch install base, and eventually some sort of paid DLC expansion and also a graphics enhancement for the next system, these things can help to push the system. And we've seen how Aonuma has alluded to this idea that our imagination can really change around the world for Tears of the Kingdom, suggesting that there could be more systems in place that will lead to these crazy discoveries and these crazy ideas that would have a similar effect to what we saw with Breath of the Wild, people making all these sorts of crazy discoveries that we all talked about for years. And still do, actually. We're still making discoveries in Breath of the Wild. So with this in mind, Tears of the Kingdom may have been constructed in a way where it's going to double down on some of the amazing things about Breath of the Wild that made it so successful. And going back to PAX, looking at that statue, seeing how cool it is, seeing the animated background, even though Nintendo technically doesn't have anything brand new at PAX, their presence is still felt. I still feel they are doing something impactful here, and perhaps all they're doing is reminding us of this exciting game, and it leads to people like me talking about it here on the internet, and perhaps some of you listening and engaging in that conversation, whether you agree or disagree that Nintendo's marketing has been good. Of course, I say all of this with the assumption that we're getting a Direct in a few weeks. I believe that there are some rumors, it makes sense, that's how they handled a few of their other big games like Splatoon and Xenoblade. So I do think we're getting a Direct in early April, perhaps a week after the Mario movie, but we shall see. Anyways everyone, those are my thoughts on the marketing for Tears of the Kingdom. I've ultimately come to the conclusion that I think it is good, and I think Tears of the Kingdom is going to be a very successful game. And yeah, the jury's still out on whether it will beat Breath of the Wild at the end, so we'll see. This is Andres Restart. I'll see you all really soon. Take care.